Hi, so welcome everybody. My name's Warren Matofsky. I'm the chair of this community of practice. Today's event is focused on participation and how we can build resilient services through collaboration with children, young people, their families and communities. Just to start with a bit of housekeeping, sorry there was a bit of confusion first thing about coffee. There will be coffee at 11 o'clock. The toilets are outside this door and to the left. We're not expecting any kind of evacuation or fire procedure. If there is a fire, the manager will come in and send some of you through that door, some of you through this door, and some of you through this door. That involves technical information beyond my comprehension, but we shouldn't expect any of that. So, today's community of practice is part of a programme called Sussex Delivering With, Delivering Well. Sussex Delivering With, Delivering Well is about transforming children, young people and family services that promote, prevent and support mental health. That's specialist, targeted and universal services. And for those of you that could make our first event back in July, all the presentations and that explains in quite a bit of detail what Delivering With, Delivering Well is about is covered on our YouTube channel, Sussex DWDW, so please go and check that out. Just to give you a bit of a summary, Sussex Delivering With, Delivering Well is based around 5 key priorities that make this really handy acronym APE. Okay. And we've got some gibbons there at the side to model this APE. So what does this APE stand for? It stands for accountability, it stands for awareness, accessibility, participation and evidence-based practice. Now today's focus is on participation, but I think there's something slightly misleading about this list, and it was my attention was drawn to that by something the chair of our programme board for this programme said to me a few weeks ago, and she said that, you know what, Warren, I think participation is not another priority, but something that weaves through all the others. And I think that's a very insightful observation, and my hope is that today, and when we run a follow-up community of practice on participation, you'll get a chance to explore that fully. So we're going to be thinking today about what participation means in mental health, and mental health for children, young people and their families. Now, there's nothing new about participation and having participatory practices and processes. You know, I can remember being involved in participation projects back in the 1980s. And before any of you kind of overestimate my age unfairly, that's when I was a young person. I suppose what kind of has changed in the last 10 years, but particularly in the last 5 it's intensified, is that participation has become a policy and legal requirement and increasingly a commissioning expectation. Now, in putting together this event, my assumption was that there's going to be people here from a range of services. Some services that might use participation in quite a focused or narrow area, others that might use participation across the board. And we were really keen that this event would be relevant to both groups, so that if you're using participation in a more narrow way, you'll get ideas about how you could extend it across the whole range of ways that your service works. And we're going to have lots of examples of projects presented today to give you ideas about that. But if you're from a service that's got well-developed participation, today is not only about sharing your expertise, but having a pause for reflection and thinking about how you can extend your participation. Because one thing I've learned from my years working in participation is that you constantly have to review, refine and sustain. There's no end point to participation. It's something that you're continually working on. And I think we're very lucky in Sussex because we've got some participation work going on that has national prominence. And you'll get a chance to hear about some of that today. In introducing participation, I like to think of it as having 2 dimensions, breadth and depth. And this Venn diagram, it's in your delegate pack. This is the idea of the breadth of participation. So we can use participatory practices in direct work, in operationally in terms of our staff and how they work, and also at a strategic level. And again, we've made sure today you'll get ideas about projects covering each of those 3 areas. So that's the breadth of participation. Participation also has depth, and that's what this ladder's about in the corner. And this is Roger Hart's ladder of participation. That is a way of thinking about how participation can be done at various levels, a superficial or tokenistic way, in a meaningful way, or in a way that has kind of real depth. And we'll get a chance to learn a bit about that later on. So, I wanted to start today with some definitions of participation, and I thought we would turn to the experts, and we're really fortunate that we've got some youth advisors from CYP-IAPT who are here today who are going to share some definitions of participation. For people here from services that are going to be sending staff on those CYP-IAPT courses, you will have the chance, your staff will, when they're learning on those courses, to attend sessions run by the IAPT youth advisors. So I'm going to invite them from where they're sat just to share with us a definition of participation. So if I could start off by asking Nick if you'd like to share with us your idea about participation. We have a microphone. Is this working? No, it's not working. Is the technician there? Looking for a button. Hello? Thank you. Cheers. Thank you, Nick.
I like writing a speech, so that's what I do. Okay. Participation was a concept I was previously unaware of before beginning my work at the Anna Freud Centre. Other than my lived experience of mental ill health, I really didn't have any idea this whole world of involvement existed in any way whatsoever. What I did know was that I believe people that are most affected by decisions should be the ones most empowered to make them. It was a principle I had encountered through my interest in left-wing political theory and practice, but I always assumed it was therefore limited to that space. I certainly didn't think anything like it would in actual fact be a focus of current policy, least of all in areas like mental health. But now, in my role as a young advisor, a role I have held for just over a year now, I can safely say that this is indeed the case. I honestly had no idea what I was getting myself into at the time, so it was very nice to discover that I'd accidentally landed myself in a job that was all about doing just that. Participation is about empowering service users to make changes within their service. The reason may appear self-evident and obvious, but a lot of the times I think it's quite easy to lose sight of it in the competitive capitalist market society we live in and which mental health services operate in as well. A service is for its users and should therefore be driven by its users as well. Since last year, I've been steadily learning about CYP-IAPT, a transformation program aimed at making this a reality for as many services as possible in the UK. It has been a pleasure to be part of enabling this process. There are challenges we have to face with participation, from trying to create and sustain groups with small budgets and a lack of dedicated workers to facilitate them, to ensuring participation truly gives voices to the voiceless, rather than elevating the most confident and eloquent of experts by experience above others whilst purporting to represent them. But these are challenges I believe we can face, but only by coming together like we are today to reflect on the past and the present, but also to organise and plan for the future ahead. Thanks.
Cheers, thank you, Nick. Now can I ask Rashan to say a few words?
So hi, I'm Rashan, and participation to me was something I didn't even know about until I stumbled upon it. So I started participation by just being invited to a day of training, and it was recruitment section training. And I didn't understand anything of what I was being taught, but I remember the slide that always kind of, to me, sums up participation. And it was a slide that basically gave you a scale of 1 to 10, and they told you, how much do you think you can be involved in involvement? And I guarantee half of the young people were like 2, 3, 4, And to be honest, it's all the way up to 10. And involvement to me isn't about taking young people and just ticking a box. It's about getting them involved 110%. It's about collaboratively working together with therapists to create a service that is better than maybe you previously experienced. I've known loads of people that got into participation, not for the whole idea of service change, but just to change one person's life and kind of say, well, you guys did this completely wrong, but this is how you could have improved it. Participation is working collaboratively together through psychotherapy, CBT, even just through with service managers and commissioners to make a difference in each stage. It is almost as the participation now to kind of demonstrates a hierarchy, but it's not a hierarchy that you climb, it's a hierarchy that just involves everything. It can be from commissioning. I've worked with a few commissioners. I work with the service manager in Lucian very closely. And to me, participation isn't something that should just be, oh, we have to do participation. It should be embedded in every single piece of your practice. I've met so many people who, when they first heard of participation, were so scared. We're letting young people into the service, and they're going to completely have outrageous ideas. And really, when you sit down and actually talk and listen collaboratively, it actually creates a complete different point of view. So for me, it's also about, in therapy, kind of, in your therapy, what do you want to do? Like, people just kind of tell you, okay, this is how your therapy is going to go, this is the medication you're going to take. And you know, some young people fall out of the service that way because they feel like, well, they're just telling me what to do. They're not giving me a choice. Participation is about choice, options, and even just information. Because you guys can't do everything in the world, and sometimes your service doesn't allow that. To me, participation is giving young people a voice and the opportunity to gain confidence, to actually drive their life. Participation to me is really important, and I hope you guys kind of find out that today as well.
All right, thank you for that. And finally, can I ask Chanel for her thoughts about police? That okay? Okay. So you've had some ideas there. What I'd like you to do around your tables is to have a bit of a discussion. Oops, I'm not allowed to step up like this. You didn't see that. You meant to use the stairs. I'd like you to, around your table, if you don't know each other, just to introduce yourselves and to think about these two questions. How do you understand participation, and how does your role or service use participation? I noticed there's two half-filled tables here. If you think it would help your discussion, you could merge into one group, but that's your choice. So, yeah, just about 15 minutes thinking about those questions.